Alright, I'm going to do a little unboxing video, a little bit different than the ones that you may have been used to seeing, because this is a magical box of strange goodies from Mr. John Kenneth Hutchison. And I've been really looking forward to this because it's going to be some really extraordinary metal samples, some really confounding paperwork, and of all things that have been unboxed on YouTube, this might be the actual coolest thing that's ever been unboxed. So I've been told to be excited about this one, and I am. I feel like a kid on Christmas here because this is going to be magical. So I'm going to set it down right here. Get both hands going on it. We'll cut this open and we'll take a look. Ooh, instruments. Okay, what do we have here? We've got a Heathkit grip dip meter. Okay, so this is actually a really wild piece of equipment that is a handheld unit that is meant for measuring the magnetic field lines of the Earth. And so you can actually use this piece of equipment to find where the magnetic field lines are actually moving around and explore, vortices. My research has indicated that, magnetism is one form of this ethereal energy that I've been working with. So heat and magnetism fall along the lines. So if I find weird readings on the magnetic field lines of the Earth, hopefully that'll help me out with interesting things like prospecting, possibly indications of quartz or other types of crystals, or possibly natural vortices of, genius locations in which genius thoughts tend to occur seem to kind of flow along these lines too. So this will just be fun. A really cool piece of old school equipment that John has let loose of recently. If you keep looking through what he's listed on eBay, he keeps listing all sorts of really cool stuff, raising money for the lab. So these right here, these are the coils, the tuning coils, that actually, carefully, these are the different ways in which this device is tuned to the different geology. So we'll be putting this into the device up top, I'm assuming, in this socket, and be able to attenuate this piece of equipment to investigate magnetic field lines. Quite magical, quite magical. So thanks, John. I'm going to put it to good use at the Love Lab. And let's keep unboxing and see what else we got in here. Alright. Ooh, strange. Alright, so we've got a Hutchison effect metal sample here that's twisted around with radio waves. So this is actually something that has occurred with high voltage, high frequency, small amount of power. And actually, as I feel it in my hand, I'm getting a strange, it actually feels kind of like, this is, one of those pencil tricks where you make the pencil look flexible. Well, when I just first picked it up, that's kind of almost how it feels in my hand. Really strange. So, looking forward to doing some samples with that. I have some other turnbuckles of the same material. This one feels slightly lighter than the ones that I'm used to. Maybe it's just the way it is. Maybe it's just a strange property of this one. This will be fun to investigate. So, alright, let's keep looking through here. Alright, here we go. Okay, this is a purely magical thing. Purely magical right here. This is a large conglomeration of what was copper. And if you can see the red kind of glassiness, as I change the direction of this in the light, you see it go from really bright red to kind of dark glass looking. Well, this was a chunk of copper, and there's a mineral called cuprite that is 2 parts copper, 1 part oxygen, that forms around the oxidized kind of malachite areas and copper deposits. And what you're seeing is, and I don't have the spectrum analysis on it, but what my theory is that through the Hutchison effect, 2 parts copper, 1 part oxygen was forced together through some strange way and created surface and interior cuprite crystals. Now, cooperite crystals are not, you can't make them larger than 40 to 50 nanometers. They were investigated as semiconductors for telecommunications, and they made some in the lab, but they were just too expensive and too small and didn't work well enough. So yeah, you can't just make big chunks of cooperite. That just isn't the way it works. But here it is. So that's cool. Gonna be happy to investigate that. So, what else we got in here? Ooh. Whoa. That's groovy. Huh. A very strange feeling rock in hand. Yeah, he sent me a picture of this, and I'm still not quite sure what to make of it. I would like to figure it out myself. This is a natural rock. This is just for fun and curiosity's sake. So one more cool thing to investigate, but kind of wild. Not quite sure what kind of formation that would have came from. No clue. Not a geologist, but it'll be fun to tinker with. Alright. I'm going to keep on cruising down the line here. And we'll just put all these treasures up here in a row so everybody can see all these goodies that John's letting loose of currently on eBay and that are available for purchase by other people as well. Alright, so what else we got in here? Ooh, alright. Sit down for a second. Alright. This is going to be good. Oh. Okay. Here we go. So, this is a piece of glass that came from his experiments that is one of very few. It started off as a square and has kind of a weird iridescence to it, I can already tell. It started off as a square piece of glass, and then it fell apart, and whatever fell off of it turned into like gold looking powder, I guess. And this is what was left. So this started off as a square, had some weird transmutation occur. Now it's got some strange kind of iridescent properties to it, and just one of the real rare samples that he's been willing to let out of his collection lately to help build his new lab and fund some of his new research. So interesting stuff. And keep cruising down the line here. Alright, so this is actually a wonderful sample. This is just absolutely stellar. I think this one is one of his classic samples. I think this one was off of one of his movies. You can see how strange that must have probably been to see this happen. So I'm not sure what to think about it. Very strange thing to happen to metals with RF and very small amounts of power, orders of terawatts under what it should actually require to force something apart. So, all right, and here's something that's been forced apart. Now this will be useful. This thing looks like the shape is going to be quite fun to tinker with in the experiments. And this thing is actually weird, strange. When I pick it up, I'm getting a little ache in this knuckle. Like nothing pain, but just picked it up, got a little achiness in the knuckle. So that's kind of weird. Some sort of a tapered metallic device here to experiment around with that has been, once again, forced with radio waves for this physical damage to occur. So I keep finding that there's extra torsional capacitance, which is something I'd like to, Nikolai Kosarev was an astrophysicist in Russia that I started investigating this stuff completely on my own and found that there was another person that came up with the very same results I was seeing. And what he was trying to explain is that these are objects altogether are like sponges. They have different capacitance for torsional. You can basically make them hold on to some of their torsional force depending on the material. Some will hold on to it longer than others. Well, what I found is that these Hutchison effect samples have been manipulated around in a way in which they gain extra torsional capacitance. So for my experiments, I can get extra dramatic results when I'm tinkering with some of his samples. and doing torsion field stuff. So seems to be working quite well. Looking forward to investigating more things. Let's see. All right. So here we go. Got another piece of Hutchison effect metal. This is a effect, the dustification effect that's well noted. Looks like a piece of brass, and I think that this might be something that has been tested. I'll have to go back through some of the paperwork, but I think this one might have been tested to have found, like, you can see it has like copper and brass, and looks like there's been some actual alchemical transmute. I think this one might be the one that has some gold in it. So one of these pieces had a spectrum analysis that was just really weird. It was all over the place. Had multiple metals, and I think cobalt or some very anomalous stuff. And it almost kind of looks like there's a little bit of a reddish tint to that little copper spot. Yeah, it looks like there's possibly a little bit of that cuprite gemification on that copper spot occurring. As it goes kind of red to kind of black and glassy to back to coppery. So yeah, very strange piece. There seems to have been some sort of neutron embedding going on in a lot of these samples that yet to be explained by science. And so this right here, this is a very well-known piece. This piece has had a lot of spectrum analysis done on it. I'm looking forward to checking it out myself. What you're seeing is there is actually wood. That is actually wood inside of this that is molecularly bonded. So bonding of dissimilar materials right here is another part of the Hutchison effect. It's kind of something that happened in the Philadelphia experiments too. But, you know, with people instead of inanimate objects, because, you know, they weren't as concerned as John is about living things. But for this was actually just some wood that somehow or another ended up twisting and molecularly bonding into this metal, which is obviously metallurgically not possible because you can't put wood embedded into molten metal without it charring and turning to carbon. So this piece has had a lot of science done on it. Spectrum analysis that shows strange cobalt production. There was a really interesting video a fellow made where, see these holes right here, these little holes right here, he basically did the spectrum analysis and concluded that it's the same weird anomalous materials as one hole over to the other that makes something that he deduced was something called a soliton loop, or possibly a soliton loop, and linked to sun formation or sunstorm formation. And I have actually found very interesting insights into the same thing through my experiments. So hopefully just by taking a look at what's going on with these things, and taking a look at some of the responses I've been able to get, be able to come up with a way better idea of how sunstorms actually happen. And so this is the real use of some of the, I mean, these aren't just for fun. There's real use, there's extreme usefulness to these samples as well. But man, isn't that fun. So this is really cool. This is just so cool. So really looking forward to experimenting around and see what else I can come up with from this. But you can see the sheer torque, you can see the sheer force that was used to twist this thing. I mean, I can't even imagine, it's hard to imagine this thing actually going from a piece of bar stock into, it's got wood running through the core, wood twisting out of it in different weird spots. You can see all these lines of just sheer force. And the strangest and coolest thing about these is when these effects happen and they're sitting there sometimes even white hot with energy, glowing hot with energy, but won't even set a piece of paper on fire and you can actually pick it up. So just one more reason why you should consider buying some samples from John right now. It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance to get a hold of some actual alchemical objects that will probably never anything like be for sale again, but you caught him at the right time. So he's letting loose of some of his super cool stuff, and there's a lot of people out there that could get their hands on it and take a look at it, get some fresh eyes on it. I think it'd be helpful and useful to a lot of people. So, ooh, Wow. Wow. That is freaking cool. Yeah, so if this was done with heat, you'd see, this is a tempered steel. Oh, it's hard. If this was done with heat, you'd see the heat flame. You'd see the heat marring. You could definitely see an indication of heat creating these bends. No such indication. This was all done with radio waves. So this is just classic Hutchison effect sample. Just absolutely astounding physical object that shouldn't exist. And once again, just one of many cool things that was available recently on eBay through his efforts to help build a new lab here. And so everybody that wants to try to go, just pick up a couple $100 worth of samples from him. It's super cool. It'll be a treasure for the rest of your life, and it's really going to a good cause. So, I mean, this is just wild. I mean, how cool would that be to just have sitting around and it's like, hey, you know, just for fun, somebody did this with radio waves. So, yeah, plenty more twisted tools and stuff still available that he'll let loose of. So just keep an eye out what he's listing. There'll be more coming up as well. So, what else we got in here? Oh, okay, I've been really looking forward to this sample. This is one that I've been really looking forward to. Okay, so this is a really wild sample. This started off as a piece of aluminum stock, and it turned into a pile of aluminum crystals. This is a transmutation. This went from strange to stranger. I mean, this started off as a piece of stock, something maybe, you know, I mean, and it turned into this. So this is just incredible. It looks like it's been fused together back there. This was also used, I guess, in an instantaneous communications experiment. So once again, the ultimate true speed is not the speed of light, but the speed of thought. And I like the way Boyd Bushman puts it. He says, a blind Einstein says energy can only go as fast as sound. A seeing Einstein says energy can only go as fast as the speed of light. But a thinking Einstein says that energy can go as fast as the speed of thought. So I'm looking forward to tinkering with this and possibly seeing if it could help out Nikolai Kosarev and the Kosarev mirrors. Aluminum is supposed to be a very intense material for instant communication with mass consciousness, in which they use big flat sheets to just basically make tubes to lay in. And it's low tech, but supposedly there's something to it. So if you ever feel like tinkering with it, go grab an aluminum sheet and just wrap it up and go start sleeping in it or spend an hour. Supposedly if you spend too much time in it, it'll give you headaches and stuff. But give it an hour at a time. Try to see if anything strange comes to you. And just one more reason to keep an eye on the simpler things. The simpler things. Just it's amazing how much the simpler things are actually effective. So yeah, aluminum, very interesting for communication, and very much potential there. So worth investigating. All right. Okay. This is interesting. So I'm guessing that this was something that had a bunch of preformed tabs on it that were cut and then put into a field, and so the field forced these tabs up and apart, and some of them broken off. So yeah, this will be really interesting to put in my experiments and see what kind of torsional energy wants to flow through there, because I keep finding that there's still residual energy of ethereal nature. It's not really electricity. It's not really heat or magnetism. It is a different form of energy that science has yet to comprehend or even acknowledge. And I'm just going to keep tinkering away and showing that it exists. These are also good elf trophies to show that magic is real. And yeah, once again, available on eBay right now. Hutchison Effect metal samples. Take a look. So, continue to investigate farther. And what we have here, ooh, now this is an interesting one. This is, you get to see, this is not machined. This is from the Hutchison effect. So these are the shear force waves And yeah, just sheer waves of energy dustifying and scraping off the top of this steel sample. Now this is really cool. It's a full circle. I had a quarter piece before, and I was able to get some really wild results. Wow, just moving it around. Yeah, shaking it. Ooh, it kind of wants to keep jiggling after you just shake it a bit. That's interesting. Yeah, this thing has probably the most torsional capacity out of any of the materials that I have come across yet. These steel samples are very interesting. Very interesting, and I think he's got plenty more of them available. So, a couple $100 you can get a chunk. I mean, you really have to just tinker with it, or just understand what the Hutchison effect is, or just really want to support it to appreciate it. Because yeah, it's what do you do with it? It's a paperweight. I don't know, but it's amazing to me. I've been able to use them for my experiments and comprehend and copy nature. That's what I keep thinking. And so, if this is something that is possible in nature, well, just taking a look at the way that these energy lines want to form, and just these samples, are just the first most basic things anybody should be doing to try to comprehend and copy the nature of the Hutchison effect. So this is just helpful to just have different ways of seeing what's been going on and use your imagination from there. So one more cool thing. Alright. Oh, wow. Oh, that's super cool. So, yeah, these are some pliers. They don't really look like they're going to do much very well for intended use anymore. Because they've had, a little bit of a problem with Hutchison effect. Can't really, much of do anything once you've been through the Hutchison effect. Because mangles pliers, and you can't drill anything with that drill bit. You can't ply anything with these pliers. But you sure can ogle at them and say, wow, what the heck happened there? So, yeah, looking forward to investigating these. Really cool example. Show people what's going on with it all. And let's see. Alright, last of the samples here is the statue sample. Now, this is absolutely astounding. This is a very cool piece. Try to get it in some really good light. Whoa, good light here, because this, you can just really see the ripples kind of rippling and spiraling up as this molecular change occurred. Anti-gravity and molecular change kind of made this form as it all kind of pulled it upwards. So this one, I do believe, has strange properties, strange alloys. I believe that this one has some gold, some other weird strange alloys in it that just, when you run it through the spectrum analysis, you'll find strange alloys and things like gold and copper and brass and cobalt and all these strange things. So I don't quite know. I don't want to say that I've looked at the paperwork too much, but I know this one's got strange alloys. I'm really looking forward to investigating its energetic properties. Wow, it's kind of like, definitely some, look at that. That's cool. You can just see the force just pulled out of the ether, just pulled it right out. So my bet is that there is still, at this particular energy point, amongst many others, this point right here will still be emitting some residual energy from this. More or less, like, it would be real interesting to take this and use Carillion photography. Just flat out, just take some of these and put them under Carillion photography and see what kind of energy lines are still coming out of them. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And last but not least, what we've got here, and this is something for the road for everybody, is we've got a whole bunch of smaller bits and smaller pieces and things that we're actually going to be tinkering around together and making some alchemical jewelry. So what we're going to be doing is using smaller bits and smaller pieces to make wire wraps and sort of things like that. Wire wraps, I'm going to be putting them inside of these pine cone pendants and doing interesting things with them. And these will become available soon enough. So there will be plenty of really cool bits and pieces available coming out also from just tinkering with. So we're gonna continue to do creative, fun things with all these samples, and there will be some really cool truly alchemical jewelry on the rise. So we've got just a beautiful variety of different ways we could go. If you're feeling like supporting the Hutchison effect and the Love Lab, and all the efforts is really just in order to try to get the information out to get the Life Ray. So the Life Ray is actually a really cool piece of technology that's passive, a passive way of dealing with Fukushima radiation and water restoration. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be just kind of putting our heads together, hopefully, and keep pushing out cool creative ways to integrate some of these things out into the creative public, and try to bridge the gap between you artists and crafters and the musicians and all these creative magical folks that are either not aware or less aware than they should be about the Hutchison effect, the Life Ray. So take a look at the Life Ray. He's got plenty of videos on it. There's technical information that shows that it is actually the only thing that I'm aware of that's actually been shown to remediate radiation. And so this whole effort, it's going to be really great and fun to get other people involved, but it's all for one large main purpose outside of just building the lab. The lab is going to be great, but we need to get the lab into full swing, and we need to implement the Life Ray, get it out there, restoring water, remediating radiation from Fukushima. So we'll be making some really cool jewelry along those lines, and please do take a look at those upcoming pieces that will be coming up in the next several months. And we're also going to be trying to use some of the dust, the metal flakes and dust that have came off of the experiments for some alchemical embedding of some more jewelry. So we may crush up some of these flakier pieces and be able to insert crushed powdered sample. So basically, just keep an eye out for upcoming pieces. Support what he's selling on eBay, because he's really letting loose of some wild stuff, and he wants to try to connect with the wild people that are interested in tinkering with it. So yeah, just reach out and support something that is truly phenomenal and truly worth considering. And I surely hope that you enjoyed this, and hopefully have gained some interest in some of these wild things. So I'm going to get back to tinkering with all this good stuff. Looks like I've given myself plenty to do here in the Love Lab. And I hope you all enjoyed it. Have a great day.